Morena had looked over at her mother, who wasn't enraptured by Britain, but was watching Morena. Had she known then, at that very moment? Of course she had. A Var would necessarily know those things, even when Morena didn't. It must have been a shock for her mother to see that, to understand in that moment the life her daughter would lead. There would be no bynum mate. There would be no pure-blooded Var for the next generation. Morena often thought about that when she looked at Britain as she was now, thought about her mother, the Var of the last generation, seeing into the future, seeing how all the rules would be rewritten. She saw it and didn't even blink as she looked at Morena, all those years ago. She didn't smile, didn't give any kind of approval, but just looked with a calm that still shocked Morena. Could she do the same if her daughter decided something as drastic as Morena had? Could she look on, already knowing there wasn't anything to be done, that the makers had decided such things long ago? Or would she fret and thrash, trying to force her will onto things she couldn't control? Morena thought the latter. She was not her mother, no matter how much she wished it so. Her mother may have been the greatest Var to ever live, 1.5 million years of progress under her rule and adored by all. Morena wasn't jealous of such a thing. How could she be? She recognized the greatness in her mother and felt proud, even if her own path would be much different, as it already had been. Britain sat at his work, his red aura reminding Morena of his strength, as it always did. Others might see a Lorn with such an aura and feel fear at something so aggressive, but not Morena. That red aura had been the beauty she saw all those years ago, and it hadn't faded yet, hadn't even begun to fade. Is this our prime? Morena thought, studying him. When we both fade, what then? It was a silly question and one that she didn't need to answer, one brought on by Morena's own thirst for more. That's what possessed her that didn't possess her mother. Morena wanted more, although she hadn't clearly defined what more meant. And in this context, it was asinine at best. When they faded, as all creatures did, she would love Britain, nothing more and nothing less. She would love him as she did now. She stood and walked across the room to him, placed her hand on his. He looked up at her, his pupils full of the same fire that warmed their planet. If she could transfer that fire to the planet's core, this whole problem would be over quickly. There was enough heat inside him to keep her people alive for another 1 billion years. She couldn't do that, though. She couldn't set his fire free, and would she, if it were possible? Would she kill him so that her people might live? Stop, she thought. It was another pointless thought, this one because of the current situation surrounding her. She would never need choose between Britain or her people, Britain or Bynimian. It was a ridiculous notion. He would find a way out of this, and maybe that's why her mother accepted what she saw 2,000 years ago, when Morena gazed across the room at her future husband, that he would find a way out of the problem their world was creating. Morena didn't know for sure, and she wouldn't be able to ask her mother. The greatest Var to ever live no longer lived, and Morena was left here to rule by herself. Herself and Britain. She leaned down and kissed the top of his head, holding the kiss for a few seconds. Without him, Bynimian was lost. Without him, Morena was lost. The woman was petty, a relic of the past. Chilrus Hindran. She had been a part of the council when Morena's mother was Var. It was amazing that she hadn't died yet, though it was clear that her green aura was not as bright as it had been even 100 years ago. She was fading, and Morena didn't think she would need to deal with this Hindran long. You're being unfair, she thought as she stood on the balcony, looking at Chilrus floating up. Morena knew she was coming, was prepared to talk. That was the thing, Morena supposed, the reason why she didn't like Chilrus Hindran. Morena had to prepare before they spoke. She had to make sure that she thoroughly investigated every possible area of discussion, because if not, somehow this council member would make Morena feel like a child. It was never done in a way that could be brought against Chilras, but it was done nonetheless. And it stemmed from Britain.